Hello and welcome to this lecture on Adobe Photoshop by Eduonics. In this lecture we're going to go over the color replacement brush as well as the mixer brush. And let's start with the color replacement brush. It's basically a combination of a selection and a brush set to color. And if you notice, it has these controls up in the option panel. Things like dry, light, these are presets that affect all this stuff. We'll try it with a few different ones. I'm gonna select a round brush here. I can still choose all my same brush options. I'm gonna go ahead and select one that's small, has a small tip. The most important setting. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm supposed to be in the color placement tool. Okay. Yeah. The most important setting here is tolerance with the color replacement tool. And this is the one that I was talking about that is like a combination of a selection tool and a brush. So when my tolerance is low, the first thing that I select, it's going to stick to that. And there's another yellow block up there. There's also some red blocks. So what it's not doing is painting over the white, but it is actually doing that a little bit too. I picked these because it'd be challenging to show. So it's basing this off of brightness. If we select discontiguous, which these matter if it's touching or not. Discontiguous is if things aren't touching. As you can see, there's not a whole lot of difference, but the only options you have are the hue, the different color changing options, because what this is essentially doing is changing the color. If you see, what this is doing is it's sampling the background color, and this is actually just sticking to one shape for once, like it's supposed to. If I wanted to do the edges, I would just start on the edges and it'll generally get more stuff. But obviously in this case I'd want to turn the tolerance up a little bit. Maybe even a little higher. There you see I'm getting the whole block that time, and it's pretty clean. So you definitely want to find the perfect settings for what you're doing. Now that would be the circle effect you're seeing is coming from the sampling once option. I'm going to choose sampling background swatch. Of course it's have white on the background. So it's hard to find actually a lot of documentation. But the limits are ideally, discontiguous means that like if I go to Magic Wand Tool and I select contiguous, it's going to select the same color in different parts of the picture. I guess the better way to show this would be by drawing a great big so now they're definitely not touching, and you can see the contiguous doesn't go past this line, it's only selecting things that are touching. So discontiguous, like having this off, would be selecting everything based on that brightness, and that's what it's using. It's using the brightness to determine. So here in the color replacement tool, when you select discontiguous, it's allowing you to go all over the place. By setting the hardness down, I can get rid of that edge a little bit. And by setting this to color instead of hue, I can get a more, obviously a much bolder look. And as you can see, this works really well with images that share the same color, it only varying by brightness and things like that. It's a lot less confusing for it. When I was painting over some of the edges, I could lower the tolerance, but that in a sense is the color replacement tool. So that brings us to the mixer brush tool. If I paint with a mixer brush, I haven't let up off of my stroke yet. You can see it's taking some of the blue right there and eventually fades it out to white, and it's white up until it gets to here. Now I've already crossed over this teal color and it doesn't really start to pick it up until here. So it's kind of like you're actually painting with a real paintbrush. And there's two main settings here. It's load the brush after each stroke and clean the brush after each stroke. These are both on by default, so when we turn them off, and by the way, that segmented look that you're getting, we can get rid of that. So this is all stuff that happens after each stroke. So it's cleaning and it's loading after each stroke. That means it's taking away stuff. If you really want to have that paint simulated feel, take off the cleaning one, even take off the loading one. And the reason, like I was about to say, the reason you're getting that whole segmented look can be fixed with the brush that you're using. In brush tip shape, I have a setting set to 25 in spacing. This is shortcut key F5. If you set it down to something like 7 or less, because you don't want to go too low because it'll take up a lot of processor speed, you lose that effect basically. Now I just picked up some blue and I painted it over there. So now when I go here, I'm carrying the blue with me. However, if I had these set to on, well, it still carries the blue, because that's what I'm painting with. But it's a lot like actually painting. So the mixer brush is really great if you're doing illustration, and it's great for skin tones, and if you have some images that you just want to change around. Now, wet is probably the most useful. Load is how much actual paint is on the brush. So with wet set to 0, you can see it doesn't give me that. It's basically like I'll start out painting, and then I run out of paint. Now let's turn these off with wet set to 0. And every time, now my new strokes don't have anything, because I would have to hit Alt and dip it in again, kind of to get a new color. And then we're back to the same thing. I'll dip it in to get some blue. If you noticed, I selected whatever you select. Like you put your mouse over it, you hit Alt, click it, you'll get a little swash of that. And it's really cool. So if I want some of these crazy little blue things, it's going to pick up a little bit of the blue and a little bit of the white. This has a lot of different colors in it. Kind of looks like toothpaste. So it's best to usually have these on, because then I can just keep on painting with this crazy color that we have. So if you ever need to create like a 3D image of a snake or something, I mean, it's just a great tool, and you can obviously change the brush size and everything. So this is one that I'm going to say to play around with, and I really mean it. Play around with the mixer brush tool. Pick up some portraits of people and put them in there, and use the mixer brush tool on them. Use the mixer brush tool with just about everything. Try the different presets out, because they're thought out presets. And use different kinds of shapes. This can take up a lot of memory, as you see, but at the same time it has a really cool effect. So it's all about using your creativity and resourcefulness with this tool. But that does it for these two. So we've covered all the brushes by now, and just definitely practice with the mixer brush tool. As you can see, it can do some really cool things. Color replacement tool you can pretty much achieve by just using a selection, and it's actually a little bit cleaner just to use a selection and a brush tool with a color set to color, or another layer even better set to color. But the mixer brush tool there's no real tool like it, so practice a lot with that, and thanks for watching.